To set the tone for the meeting, I will read an extract from Dr. Bob's Nightmare, page 180 and 181. I spend a great deal of time passing on what I learn to others who want it and need it badly. I do it for 4 reasons. 1, a sense of duty. 2, it's a pleasure. 3, because in so doing, I am paying my debt to the man who took time to pass it on to me. 4, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. Tonight's meeting is part 5 of working step 12 with a sponsee, and Tim will share anything between 30 and 45 minutes on the topic, after which the floor will be open for questions rather than the typical sharing. And with that, I will hand it over to Tim.
Thank you. You're brave souls being here for part 5 of anything. I wouldn't be. Anyway, Tim Alcoholic, thank you for having me back. We've got 3 topics left on step 12. I have a feeling there's like something else that's going to come after that, but we'll see when we get there. I think Ellie Shever's been talking about. But anyway. Tonight, the remaining topics, although more may pop up, are drama, that's drama, families, maybe a separate topic, maybe the same topic, unsure, we'll see, and workplace, which is kind of dull. So I don't want to bore myself, so I'll go in with drama. Let me open a window. Okay, so dealing with dramatic sponsees, I kind of didn't get the hang of it for around 26.5 years. So it took a while to work out the kinks. I had a very dramatic sponsee many years ago who I suggested that they do tea at a meeting, and they were very good. They got the little flasks full of hot water, put out the tea and coffee very neatly and tidily, and the biscuits, of course, biscuits are very important. And then they would sit as far away from the tea as possible, leaving people to serve themselves. And I suggested, well, that's kind of not the point of the tea commitment. It's that you get to talk to everyone. And the individual in question said that in her family of origin, you always know, I always get slightly tense when I hear that phrase, you know, because you kind of know what's coming. In my family of origin, I was made to play the servant role. So me doing tea at the meeting, it just triggers me because it reminds me of that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit on the other side of the room and they can serve themselves. And on one level, I can kind of see that, whatever, fair enough. But it became a pattern of resistance and drama. One night, for reasons I can't remember, why my phone was on, I have no idea. This was about 17, maybe 18, 19 years ago. My phone was on and it rang at 3:30 in the morning. And the poor individual was, you know, when someone is sobbing so hard they can't say anything, it's just sobbing for like 4 or 5 minutes until the sobbing stops. And it was something about they were going to go to a family wedding and they didn't want to go to the family wedding. And I said, oh, fine, you know, if you don't want to go, don't go. There we go. It's as simple as that. You don't have to do anything. If it's traumatizing, you don't have to do it. Now you deal with each of these situations and you think, well, I'm being a very, very good sponsor. I'm giving solutions and the solutions are appreciated and the person is continuing to call back. But the difficulty is that with sponsees where there's lots of drama, is one day you're going to be the subject matter of the drama. What do you do then? You're now everyone gets to take a turn as the problem. So you might be flavor of the month for a while, helping them deal with other dramas, but one day you become the drama. One day I became the drama. I phoned Maureen. I said, I don't know what to do about this. And she said, you tell the individual, I don't think I'm the right person to sponsor you. And you wish them well and send them off into the night. And as you're walking away, don't mutter under your breath, and I can't imagine who would be. So, be kind about it. Don't say that, say about 1/10 of what is going through your mind. Say only what is necessary. When you get to the point that you've become part of the problem. Drama can happen in two ways. It can happen in, it can be positive drama or negative drama. What I mean by positive drama, sometimes, most sponsees are like totally business-like. In conversations with you, they're like the cat and Pepe Le Pew. They can't get off the phone quick enough. It's fine. This is healthy. But the ones who are too keen, ooh, you've got to be very, very careful. There was one I did not know what they wanted from. But there was something. I didn't know what it was. So I said to them, why don't you write down what you think it is that you want from me? And they sent me this email, which sends shudders down my spine to this day. It was they wrote, okay, I wrote 27 points. Now that's trouble to start with, isn't it? You're in for a long day. And the first point was, I want your fingers to enter my brain and massage truth into my soul. And at this point, I deleted the email. I emptied the deleted items folder. And ever since, I've regretted it, thinking, oh, I'd love to know what the other 26 items were, but they're very much lost to posterity. And I terminated the relationship then and there. I should have terminated it way before. They phoned up very dramatically one day, like 2 o'clock Thursday afternoon. And there was this the first thing was this reproachful question. Did you say or did you not say that Jesus Christ was the Son of God? I'm like, I'm in the middle of a work. This is an urgent question. Where is this coming from? So drama, it can be that kind of when they want to entangle with you. Or the drama can appear to be about everyone else. I've got the hang of very dramatic people now, and very, very few call me because I'm not available for the drama dance. And you kind of give off vibes when you're no longer available for a certain type of dance. People stop asking you to dance a particular dance. But the things what I've learned from having very dramatic sponsees over the years is I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I sure as hell can't cure it. And something that Joe said many years ago was that their drama is their balm, is their ointment for their inner sense of inadequacy and guilt and shame and so on. That rather than facing that, they immediately go into blame and drama. And that's a useful avenue to, because what I don't want to give the impression of is if someone is very dramatic, there's nothing you can do. There's a lot you can do. There are cases where it goes so far that it's just irremediable, at least with you. Maybe you've gotten to the next stage, they'll handle it with someone else. But how to deal with it? Okay, so first of all, sometimes you can redirect the attention to what are the feelings you're trying to avoid by creating this drama in the first place. There's the whole borderline personality thing where, as Tom said, borderline personality, people are happy only when everyone around them is in chaos. Is to look at what are you getting out of this drama? What is the kick? So let's not look at the content. It's not about the content. It's about the fact that there is a drama being created again and again and again. And it's just like the cycles in the big book with the alcoholic and the doctor's opinion. of the ease and comfort that you get from the first stages of a dramatic situation, followed by the well-known stages of the spree, and then emerging remorseful. Then they emerge remorseful at the end of the cycle. I say they, I mean, it's not like I have done this. The only way I can deal with it is because I used to be like this myself. You get people to look at the cycle because it's not about the content. If you solve one, another one will crop up the next day because it's the machine that's generating the dramas which is the problem. The drama which is occurring is simply the whatever tools are available, whoever's there will be the subject matter of the drama. It's not coming from the situation. The situation is being used. And that's a useful conversation you can have. A second conversation, this is a very common one, when people are very sort of upset and it's someone else's fault. So this is very common with the sort of S-Anon and Al-Anon. With the alcoholic, where they think it's everyone else's fault, very often, and because I've been on both sides, I've been the typical alcoholic character and the typical Al-Anon character. The typical alcoholic character expects everyone else to do everything for them so they don't have to do it for themselves. And the typical Al-Anon is to play the hero or the martyr. So they're doing, you know, you're doing all the laundry, you're doing everything right, you're doing the dinner, you're doing the cleaning, you're doing everything. Why can't they just help with something occasionally? It wouldn't hurt if they folded a sock. You know, that kind of anger. And they're kind of two different situations, because it's very clear with the alcoholic who's just going around causing trouble, not lifting a finger, that they're the problem. With the Al-Anons and the S-Anons, from my own experience of being an Al-Anon, actually probably an S-Anon candidate as well, I won't go any further. It can look superficially as though the problem is originating elsewhere. But the way I handle it, and this is the way I handle my own propensity to drama, is to say, in any dramatic situation, the situation may command a response from me, but I won't know what the response is until I'm at peace. Because let's say you think there are 10 things wrong in a relationship with a person, and you're furious about lots of them. And then you get calm and you realize 9 of them are rubbish or inconsequential or not even a problem. One of them is a genuine problem. The one that's a genuine problem now looks completely different anyway, now that you're calm. And then you notice something else which does need to change, which was being masked by your own rage. So it's vital, if you're going to act right in a tricky relationship, whether it's a work relationship or an AA relationship or a group situation, unless you're at peace, you're going to mess it up anyway. You're going to act where it's none of your business. You're going to misapprehend the situations which genuinely command a response and act wrong in those. And you're going to miss the other things which are being masked. So a lot of the drama, the form it usually takes is infamy. They've all got it in for me. The blame thrower, not the flamethrower, the blame thrower, where I feel bad, I'm being so mistreated, blah, blah, blah. And for years, I tried to unpick the content of those situations, and it never worked. I mean, you can kind of superficially do it. And people are sort of happy because you've given them some attention, actually rather a lot of attention. Often, you know, 90% of my sponsee time was going on the 10% of sponsees that were excessively dramatic. That's not a great use of time. But the sponsees were pleased because they were calm, and part of the kind of acting out is to create the situation which is itself a balm to the internal God-shaped void. And secondly, to get all of like the help and the attention from a sponsor or a therapist or a whoever else. And that's like part 2 of the ointment. And then once they've got those 2 elements, they got the thrill and then they get the relief, they're done. And then they're quiet for a day or 2 days, and then it all starts up again. So unpicking the content, what was fascinating about these dramatic situations, particularly in the last couple of years, like between 24 years and 26 years, I started seeing that every single drama with a particular person was actually the same drama, repeating wearing different clothes. And all of that unpicking had done absolutely nothing. None of it had gone in. None of it had penetrated the subconscious. None of it had had any effect at all. And I've switched tack. And the tack I've switched is this. And it's let me just get rid of the call. There we go. The tack I've switched is this. I had a number of emotional difficulties for a number of years, from around 20 years sober onwards. So like all of my personal relationships were largely fine. It was sort of seething resentments against categories of people in the world I classed as idiotic and dangerous. Whether they are idiotic and or dangerous is another question. They might be. But my problem was sitting in my living room or going for a walk in leafy de Beauvoir town. I was fulminating with rage about these categories of people, not doing anything about anything, but just fulminating with rage. Doing inventory after inventory, thinking if only I analyze the third column carefully enough, then maybe something would pop, and then occasionally I'd see through it and then it would go. But what I learned was that it's, as I've already said, it's not about the content. It's about the fact that the rage, the anger, whatever, the fear also contains it. That's the drug. That's the drug. I've got to stop taking the drug. It's not about how to handle these situations or these types of people. It's the fact I'm continuing to feed myself the drug. So what I've switched to with myself, and this is what I've then shown to sponsees, and it's much more helpful than what I was doing before, is to say, right, I sometimes recount the story. I was in the Hofbräu house, not in Munich, but in Las Vegas, you know, the Munich Bavarian beer hall. And I was with my sponsor and with two steely-eyed Al-Anons who were several thousand years old. And I said something flippant, you know, to break the ice, the tension at the table. And this old Al-Anon said, "Did you know in Al-Anon in Texas," obviously because Al-Anon in Texas is different than Al-Anon elsewhere. So in Al-Anon in Texas, a slip is a negative thought. I then stayed largely silent for the rest of the conversation, having nothing to say. And so the job is to, with my own propensity to drama, in whatever form it takes, is to treat that as being the case. A slip is a negative thought. And so you treat it like a game. Your ego will tempt you many times a day to start thinking negative thoughts about this or about that. And generally it'll come in one of three forms. There's resentment, and the subversions of that are resentment against oneself. So remorse, remorse, shame, guilt, all of those. But that's just resentment against oneself. Resentment. Second one, fear. Third one, plotting. Plotting, scheming, planning, devising, arguing with them in your mind, winning the argument in your mind so that you're prepared for the next conversation so they won't outwit you. Those are the three mental habits. What my experience is that those mental habits need to be broken to detoxify myself. When I detoxify myself and look at the wreckage of the situation, the truth is immediately self-evident. I tried to explain or try to lead people back from the drama to what sanity would be in a situation. And this is the thing I've stopped doing because I don't think it can be done. It's just like with a drink. You can't argue someone sober who's been drinking. You can't argue someone sane who's in one of their hysterical banshee moments. What you have to do is to stop the poison entering the system and have them detox. So it's to replace all resentful thoughts with this is a sick man, how can I be helpful? This is just another child of God, how can I be helpful? To replace the fear thoughts, to substitute for the fear thoughts. God, is there any practical action you'd like me to take? Or I'm going to trust this whole situation is in your hands and go and do something else. So to practice the Emmett Fox notion of substitution, and you get immediate results. Now, people will push back hugely against this. I had someone, not unusually, pushing back. It was about the situation was where a family member was behaving badly, and the family member may or may not be behaving badly. And the question was, do I need to tell him and list for him all the things he's doing wrong? Shall I do that? And the answer lies in the just for today card. I won't regulate anybody but myself. My feelings may be hurt, but if they are hurt, I won't show it. And a slip as a negative thought, replace any resentment and fear with the appropriate positive thinking. And when you're at peace, then we can discuss how you're handling the situation and whether any action needs taken. But you can't, we're not even going to look at that until you're at peace and have been at peace for some time, because it's a waste of time trying to change things when you're upset. And you get all sorts of pushbacks. One of the pushbacks is, but therapists always say that you have to tell people the negative ways in which their behavior is affecting you. Actually, so I've been using that as an example of apocryphally for some time. There's someone actually said it today. And I understand that. You know, I've had therapists say it. And I said, well, I don't know. Do what you want. If you want to do what the therapist says, do what the therapist says. All I can tell you is I've been in a relationship with someone for 17 years. We don't argue. We're happy. And these are the rules that I follow. So take your pick. So you're not arguing. As soon as you're arguing, you're losing. First and last time I quote Ronald Reagan. If you're arguing, if you're explaining, if you're explaining, you're losing. I'm sure Evan, if he's here, will correct me. If you're explaining, you're losing. So just to, it's that Course in Miracles thing of you apply the solution. You don't analyze the solution, because analyze means anal lies. If you take to analyze is chop it into little bits and look at each of the individual little bits. If you take a person and you chop them into little bits, then you won't learn anything about the person. You'll only learn about the little bits. I've never chopped a person into little bits, I should add. I've been reliably informed this by my mobster friends, of whom I have none, that if you chop people into little pieces, they can't tell you anything useful. If I analyze the solution, it's the cockroach defending itself against the exterminator. You know, if you ask the cockroach its view as to, you know, whether the exterminator should be in the kitchen and what kind of powder they're using, the cockroach is not going to help you achieve your objective. They're gonna argue. It's like, certainly around this part of East London, I don't know if they have them where you live. You know those dogs which always look angry, and then they rush up at people angrily and barking, and they say, oh, don't worry, he's only playing. He just wants to play, just friendly. Those dogs, you know, when you give them a newspaper, within 7 seconds, there's a pile of newspaper on the floor. They've ripped it all up and they look up at you pleased with themselves. The same if you give one of them a soft toy or something, within 7 seconds, it's completely destroyed and they look pleased with themselves. That's my mind in response to a solution. You give the solution to my mind, it analyzes it, it destroys it, and it is pleased with itself. So I don't discuss the solution. Like, one thing that I've been giving people is, oh my God, this goes straight to this is like the crucifix in the heart of the vampire, like with a spiky end to the crucifix. To repeat every time you have a negative thought about another person or yourself: I am innocent, they are innocent. I am innocent, they are innocent. And people almost literally start hissing at you when you suggest that, but they're not innocent. You get them doing that, and everything starts to change straight away. But they've got to do it. There's no point in trying to understand it. So people will say, but I don't understand why they're innocent. No, you don't have to understand it. You just have to apply it. And it's just like in Course in Miracles lessons, where they say you don't have to like the solution. You don't have to agree with it, but all you have to do is apply it, and then you'll find out it's true. It's only through application that you find out it's true. And what this does, this is brilliant, because it means you don't have to perform an exorcism on them, which is what it's like dealing with dramatic people otherwise. If you engage in the content, you're now in a scene from The Exorcist. You know, when the girl is levitating off, why it's always a girl, I don't know, but when the girl is levitating, Freud would tell you, when the girl is levitating off the bed, and the priest, there's like the young priest and the old priest, and the young priest is trying to address the demon inside the person, and the girl is speaking with the demon's voice, and the demon knows everything about the young priest, and incorporates all of its knowledge about the young priest and the young priest's deepest, darkest fears into its rebuttal, into its argument against the exorcism. And you have the old priest saying, basically, don't engage with any of that stuff. It's all lies. You've got to don't touch the material, otherwise you get the material all over you and you become part of the problem. As soon as you're part of their problem, you've lost. They're going to have to go on to, they've burnt you out. It's like the fuse has gone. You're done. They have to go on to the next one. But that basic sort of Emmett Fox Course in Miracles approach works, and if they work the steps systematically, so the way you address the situation is through the systematic, formal approach of step 4, if you're going to address it at all, which goes very, very systematically. And I won't rehearse it now. We've done it in another of these talks about first column, second column, third column, forgiveness, page 67 questions, fear inventory, sex inventory, sane and sound ideal, which is the approach. And each of those, however sick someone is, if they're willing, they can go through that. But you can't short circuit that in a kind of step 10 situation with someone who is on their high horse. Just doesn't work. So you've got to shoot straight to the detox process. And then when they're calm, as I say, 90% of the structure collapses. They realize they've been crazy, and it's obvious to them how. What else do we need to know about dramatic situations? Don't take it personally. And I repeat that, don't take it personally. The dramatic ones, the dramatic sponsees, have got a way of involving and entangling you. And if you're not careful, you get involved and entangled. And when this is the therapist, you see, this is the therapist in Big Little Lies. When it breaks down, because it's going to break down. It's not if. When it breaks down, then you've got to be very careful what you say to people who are very dramatic, because they will tell everyone else, except they won't, they won't tell everyone else exactly what you said. They'll tell everyone else their version of what you said. So you've got to be very, very careful. But the point is, it's not about you. It's about them. So one mustn't get involved. And even when it breaks down, there might be all sorts of fallout in your home group or locally. You just stand firm and you muscle through it, basically. And it can be unpleasant. The point, therefore, is to avoid getting to that stage where you basically keep the same arm's length business-like approach with the very dramatic people as with everyone else. So the temptation, if you've got an Al-Anon streak, is to get more involved and to see this as a project, as I can't remember who said it. When you respond to the prospect of a dramatic phone call from a sponsee with a mixture of excitement and dread, like A, here's a fascinating project, but B, you feel slightly sick at the same time. Those situations, I want to be careful of that, because what I'm doing is what they're doing. So they have a drama about whoever else, and then they become your drama. Then you're telling all your friends and you're telling your sponsor, and you go into your extra Al-Anon meeting, hoping the qualifier doesn't show up, you know. You see what I mean? I can replicate that. I can do what they're doing. It's almost contagious drama. It's almost contagious. It's an extraordinary, the whole dynamic is extraordinary. And it's the, someone here will know more about this than me. They've disappeared. What's in there? The drama triangle of the victim, the persecutor, and the rescuer. And the danger, if you've got someone who is playing the victim role in the drama triangle, that you've been cast as the rescuer. And the thing about the Karpman, Karpman, go and read about it. Karpman drama triangle. And the funky thing about the Karpman drama triangle is the roles aren't fixed. So on Monday, they're the victim and you're the rescuer, but then something weird happens and suddenly you become the victim and they become the persecutor. And you didn't see it. Like, how could this happen to me? You enter the triangle. When you enter the triangle, that's when the musical chairs start. And when the music stops, the seat you're nearest to is the one you're sitting in for the next period until the music starts up again. So one's got to stay outside the triangle. Very difficult. The reason this is very difficult is someone who is in a drama cycle is going to look very much like an ordinary person with a situation. And it can take 2 or 3 calls or two or three problem solving situations before you realize, oh, okay, so this is a pattern. This is not problem solving. This is something else. This is a historical reenactment of an unresolved drama from childhood or wherever. And, you know, we're reenacting the Civil War, basically, trying to get the ending to change. But the ending never changes because it's fixed. The ending is determined by the rules of the game. The parameters of the game determine the end. The payoff is the victimhood, which is why people don't want to be relieved of it. And I know this because that was me. You know, the only way I know anything is because I did it for decades until finally I was relieved of it myself. Now I can see it playing out. So I think that's all I've got to say on drama. It's a very difficult subject. That's all I've got to say on drama. Does anyone have anything to ask? what I'm going to do, if I may, and obviously if other questions arise, just comes, you know, put your little hand up or something, is the family stuff. This is very dangerous territory because it involves it's real people and their actual families. So I'm extremely cautious about giving any kind of advice, and my advice is limited almost solely to what it says in the big book. Your page references, if you like page references, are pages 98 to 99. And then the chapter is basically from page 115 to 135. That 20-page block has got a bunch of things. Don't do these, but do those things not to do, things to do. And I get people just to read those passages and do what it says. And let me just get the big book, as we call it, up on screen. I might share it if I may. I think I probably can. So 98. Though his family be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. And then the next important bit is on the next page. The alcoholic continues to demonstrate that he can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless will arise of boundaries. And so this is, it's usually with family. This is the point I sort of share with my experience of what boundaries are and how you set them. And I think there are two types of boundary. First type of boundary is have we talked about boundaries before or not in these sessions? I can't remember. Okay, so the first type of boundary is the I can't, I won't boundary. So when the boundary is to do with me, you know, you're invited to a family gathering, all the people who press your buttons because they all the buttons are going to be there. You're 7 months sober and it's in a country house, 47 miles from a railway station. You have no car. Everyone's going to be drunk. Should you go? That's the question. And taxes, there you go. And it's over a long weekend, bank holidays, deepest Scotland. It's going to be snowing. You know, a possible boundary is I can't come, or I won't, which means to come. You know, the line, I always quote this one from Phoebe and Friends, where someone asks her to do something. She said, gee, I wish I could, but I don't want to. And so, you know, this is always an option to just duck out of things. Where boundaries get trickier is where it's a boundary where you want someone else to do something, either start doing something, stop doing something, or do it differently. And then you've got the 5 levels to escalate through of a polite request, offering a transaction. So a transaction is, if you come out with me and my mother this weekend, I'll go out with you and your mother next weekend. Deal. If you come to my work dinner, I will come to yours. If I do the dinner tonight, will you do the laundry? Transaction. The third type of boundary is the covert consequences. So when someone, the most obvious example is if you've got a family member that is sometimes rude and accusatory and insane and sometimes really pleasant, the covert boundary is to basically you don't reply unless they're pleasant. If they're unpleasant, you don't reply, and they get to join the dots and recognize if they want your engagement, they're going to have to play nice. That's the covert boundary. The overt consequences is when you say, if you carry on shouting, I'm going to put the phone down, and then they carry on shouting, and then they hear a click. That's the overt. So you threaten the overt consequence, and then you enact the overt consequence, which can be putting the phone down, leaving, calling the police, changing the locks, something like that. So I run through those, but honestly, I'm very skeptical. I'm very clear about like the I can't, I don't want to boundaries. I think those are very, very useful to me, and I use them a lot. What I'm much more skeptical about, particularly with families, because if it goes wrong, you're kind of stuck with your blood relatives, you're stuck with them literally forever. You know, you can excommunicate a family member, but they remain your family member. It's not like leaving the home group. You know, you're stuck with the relationship, whether or not you're seeing them. So one has to be careful with the family. Is something that Tom's sponsor says, don't expect much to change. So when you realize that probably not much, if anything, is going to change, the question is, what's the point in even trying to set the boundary? It just aggravates people. Stick to one a month, find a really careful, subtle way of communicating things. You run out of the vouchers really, really quickly. What you're left with now, these tools all help in all sorts of situations. The one type of situation which is very knotty is people in romantic relationships which are toxic and involve verbal or physical violence, and people in other sort of family relationships with verbal or physical violence. With the ones where it's romantic relationships, I've got to the stage where I've discovered it's just, I've probably mentioned this before, it's just like if they're drinking or taking drugs or, you know, eating 17 Belgian buns. They're high on the drama, the violence, the toxicity, the so-called codependency, which is, I hate the word, but there we go. And they won't make any progress in that actual program if they stay in a relationship. So I won't tell someone to leave the relationship, but what I will say is I don't think the time I'm spending trying to help you is helping while you're in the relationship. So I can't sponsor you if you stay in a relationship. There are 1,000 other people that can sponsor you. If you want to stay in the relationship and have a sponsor, ask one of them, but I'm not doing it. Because it's page 96. If the toxic relationship is so getting in the way of like it occupies 9/10 of the room, so there's only 1/10 of the room left for the program. There are magical creatures in the Harry Potter wizarding world who are, this is the adjective that J.K. Rowling made up, Karanaptixic. And what Karanaptixic means is that they grow to fill the space they're in. If you can entice one into a teapot, it will fill the teapot. If it escapes into a large room, it will grow to fill the room. And the toxic relationships are like that, whatever their life is like. And I've been like this. When I'm in a toxic relationship, I haven't been in one for years, many years, thank God, fingers crossed, touch wood. It occupies 9/10 of my consciousness. However big or small my life is, it's going to occupy 9/10. And I can't help people who are in a toxic romantic relationship. Send them straight. Where's Dominic? There you go. Send Dominic can help with those. Poor old Dominic's going to have to get a stream of calls. He knows where to send them. It's a special place some of us know about. And you know, maybe they can be helped by another fellowship. The family ones are trickier. As I say, you're stuck with them. With my own family, there are I think there are three categories of people. There are people I don't know where this tape is going. I hope this doesn't get broadcast to anyone in my family. There is someone in my family who actually listens to these, so I have to tell him to be very careful, where he don't play this at home. There are some people I'm largely indifferent to. They're like, fine. Like if I'm at a wake, fine, I'll talk to them. We're not going to be exchanging Christmas presents. We're not going to be, we're not going to be having huge amounts of hangout time together. Great, but there's no problem. There are some people, I've got some very troubled relations, particularly on the French side. The English side are much more sedate, but the French side, ooh. There are some whose behavior is so extreme and so bizarre and so criminal, actually. Like Charlotte Rampling, upper class criminal, but criminal. Seven-figure criminal, that kind of thing. They're so awful. I mean, they've got hearts of gold, I'm sure, somewhere, but it's just too much toxicity to deal with. I can't even go near it. And then everyone else, there's the everyone else. And everyone else, because I was immensely troubled, I'm a little better now. I come from a family which is very, very troubled. And there are some very troubled people. Now, some of the troubled people are good as gold and sweet, and occasionally they do strange things, and you can't try and help them where you can. But some of the people, it depends what day you catch them on. If they're on a good day, then you can have a normal conversation. If they're on a bad day, God help you. And when I used to go and visit my mother in Dorset, she's much older now. This is many years ago. I used to go down to, when she lived in Dorset, I used to go down and visit her, and she's got 1,000 good reasons for being difficult. So this is not to, I don't want to sort of pillory her. So if I'd had her life, I'd be far more difficult than she is. She's amazing considering what she's been through. But anyway, when we arrived in Dorset for a weekend visit, Jonathan would go to Tesco's to buy champagne, chocolate, and flowers. Now, whilst he was there, my mother had built up a head of steam over days and weeks with all the things she wanted to reproach me for. And our deal was, when Jonathan was at Tesco's, she would see her opportunity. She would get it all off her chest. He'd come back with the flowers, the chocolate, the champagne. And since she'd got it off her chest, she was fine for the rest of the weekend. She just needed to get it off her chest. And so what I practiced was quietly listening to it, not engaging with any of it, and seeing past the behavior to the hurt child within, keeping my focus on that as being the real person. The surface behavior is not her. The real person is innocent and wounded. That's all. They're innocent and wounded. And so this is something that I will share with people. If the person is going to be in your life because they're your mother, and they're your mother, I tried to estrange myself for a while, for a couple of years, and it was no less painful than seeing her regularly. You're no further ahead by estranging yourself as the relationship continues psychically. I don't know how that happens. My brother tried to estrange himself from her and eventually killed himself. So it doesn't work. And the relationship between him and her has continued to this day unresolved because he didn't resolve it while he was on this plane. So she still has a disordered relationship with him and with my sister who died earlier this year. So I think the job with these ones, I have to face these ones. And the way I face them, they're very difficult, but it's, as I say, it's all the Emmett Fox stuff of seeing the real person behind the surface. And over many years, they stop acting out, in my experience, because when they see, I remember the moment my mother broke, in a good way, broke. She was having a go. I was on the phone to her. She was having a go. And she said, she attacked me for something, right? I can't remember what it was. You see, I can't remember. Isn't that great? Can't remember. She attacked me for something, and she said, "So what are you going to say about that?" And I said, "I don't know." Nothing's coming into my head because I was thinking about fairies or unicorns or something. I was deliberately not mentally engaging in it. And she carried on. And she said, now, has anything occurred to you yet? Any answer? Do you have anything to say? You have nothing to say because everything I am saying is true. If it wasn't true, you'd have an answer. That is it's amazing, amazing. And at one point I said, I'm so nothing, mind blank. And she laughed. And she never did it again. At least not in that way. There are little spurts of it where she starts to have a go. But that particularly ferocious form of attack, because I remained completely neutral, kind of held her in that position. She finally saw it. And once she'd seen it once, she didn't have the nerve to continue. It was extraordinary. But I had to withstand that for years. I say withstand. All I had to do was not fall for the illusion that any of it was real, at least real for me. What she was experiencing real emotions. They weren't a reflection of the reality. This was all going on inside her bubble. It was nothing to do with me. By learning how to sit with that for a very long time and not react to it, eventually it changed. I did not need to do anything to change it other than not try and change it. That's the paradox. For the years I tried to fix and change and control that behavior, it got worse. When I stopped trying to fix, change, control, and just sat there for years, eventually it stopped. It's the only way. And so what I'm practicing much more at the moment is keeping my big fat mouth shut. And and so those are the three things I can offer with family. You know, that there are some people where it's irremediable and maybe you have to separate. There are other people who are neutral and it's fine. The people who aren't very well, some are non-aggressive, in which case you just love them and look after them and do what you can. The ones who are aggressive, that is an option. What I did with my mother is an option, and I'm glad I did it. You know, the sort of distant French cousins, the crazy French cousins, there's no love lost there. But with my mother, it needed to be dealt with. But my experience, this is I shouldn't really, well, I'm going to say it. Okay. This is where drama crosses over with the family stuff. So there is a solution. There is a way of learning how to be different with the very difficult people, but you've got to want it above all else. You've got to want to not be part of the drama. And whatever stage of development I was at, a stage of development for a very long time, that the drama I had with my mother was part of my identity. So I wanted to be free of the consequences of the drama, but I didn't want the drama narrative to collapse because it was part of my existential position in the world. If I didn't have that, who was I? What would, if my childhood was actually fine, who would I be? Was the whole thing a lie? Very difficult to let go of a drama structure. So people have got to want to. If they don't want to, don't push them. And as my sponsor says, don't pick unripe apples. I think that's all I've got on family, Alistair.
Was there one more topic? Drama and family. What was it?
Yeah, there was one more, which is workplace. This is far more straightforward. It's terribly simple, actually, the workplace stuff. Part of it is boundaries, how to get on with other people. And I think I mentioned this before. It's very simple. It's very simply a matter of applying the traditions, the principles contained in the tradition systematically. And Dennis F. is your primary go-to for the principles behind the traditions. When people have got corporate structures they're dealing with, and it's how different departments work with each other, how businesses are structured, how partnerships are structured, how the family business, because a family is in effect a type of business, then it's the concepts. So you simply sort of throw people in at the deep end with the traditions if it's to do with interpersonal stuff, and the concepts, if it's to do with structural stuff like how decisions get made, how those decisions get implemented, how responsibility and authority work, how delegation works. It's the concepts. And I'll tell you just very, very briefly, there isn't much time. That solved it, with those things. It's actually the traditions and the concepts, not the steps. I mean, you need to be in a fit state yourself, but it's the traditions and the concepts and the principles contained within them that actually resolve those situations, just like they do in a group. But I've got a friend who works for one of the big American banks. I can't tell you what it's called, but it rhymes with, no, I'm not even going to do that. Anyway, he's literally too senior for me to even joke about this. But we've had situations where he's explaining the stuff that's going on in the bank, and we can diagnose the problem amazingly effectively and quickly by systematically going through the concept 1, concept 2, where is this business going wrong in terms of the delegation of authority and decision making and responsibility being out of alignment with authority, which is what the whole thing is about. If you have authority and responsibility properly allocated with a proper delineations of where decision making takes place, who is responsible for the decisions, who they're then delegated to, what scope the delegatee has, everything becomes clear. And it's amazing how many unsolvable, complex business situations yield within half an hour to the application of the traditions and the concepts. It's really extraordinary. So that's, if they're in work and they have problems, that is your opportunity to get them to work on the traditions and the concepts. And it's far more useful, actually, in my experience, to do the traditions and the concepts that way, rather than do them cold as like academic exercises. So that's all I've got on there, and I think that's me done for step 12 topics.
Super, thank you, Tim. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. James.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for that presentation. The question I have is related to family and working with somebody, particularly if they're newly sober or newly in recovery, and the dynamics within their family has changed because, well, for example, in AA, they're no longer drinking while they're with their family. And my question is, how important or useful is it to help somebody to see that the spirit that they do things in is something that can help them have a more healthy relationship with their family? And I'm thinking, for example, principles out of that are outlined in the big book, like I think it's in the family afterwards, it's got the idea of giving rather than getting will become the guiding principle. Whether helping people to apply those sorts of principles when they have contact with their family is helpful alongside when you were talking about changing one's perception. So, for example, with maybe a parent seeing them as innocent but wounded, is it helpful to suggest that people change their attitude when they're actually spending time with their family? Or
yeah, it's kind of the only thing that's to change, actually. If the attitude changes, everything else changes automatically. People in AA and, well, all the fellowships think they're really good at concealing their emotions. It's like they say, I hid behind a wall and no one saw the real me. I'm like, come on, we could see it from 50 feet away. You were concealing nothing just because you weren't saying anything. It's like someone walks in a room, you know where they are in their life. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes people walk in the room lights up, other people walk in the room, a chill, the air, you know, the temperature drops 10 degrees. you know, I've thought that I'm being super subtle with Jonathan, and I've been leaking horribly. So what I've been taught to do by, it was Jim Willis. It was a very simple talk actually I had with him, but he said, whatever darkness you've got in your mind about your family, do not inflict it on your family. So keep yourself absolutely squeaky clean when you're with them. Really pay attention to not letting anything leak with, you know, doing things loudly or sighing or huffing or funny little silences before replying. You know, there's subtle ways you indicate that you're pissed off. To really adopt the same attitude that you would if you had if you're at work, because everyone knows how to behave, or almost everyone knows how to behave with policemen and bosses. Like, you know, when you're just on the verge of getting arrested and you have to switch, or you're in serious trouble in about 2 minutes' time, that whatever skill got you through that, or when your boss is about to fire you, just deploy that with your family in extremis. Otherwise, withdraw from the situation. Get yourself calm, get your head on straight, and adopting the attitude of I'm here to forgive, which means to withdraw judgment. I'm here to serve. And page 85 is super helpful with this. Every day is a day where we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How may I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. So what I do, and I suggest to other people to do this, go to the loo, say that line from page 85 and go back in as the servant. So you have no stake. You're just there to serve. Is there anything I can do, my lord? Now, don't say my lord, or they'll think it's sarcastic. So don't add that. But that, to take that attitude of I'm here to serve. If there's nothing you can do, say, let me know if there's anything I can do. Go and do your Sudoku in a corner sitting on the floor. Just don't, you know, be ignorable. And that will go an awfully long way. Sometimes people in AA say, you know, well, my behavior's better. You know, my thinking's still terrible and I'm all over the place, but my behavior's better. And that's kind of fine. It's like, at least we're all glad you're not punching people anymore. But that just creates a tension. And it's when there's a tension between the outsides and the insides, it's like an elastic band. When you let go, it'll snap and it'll snap back to its original shape. So the job is actually to change the internal attitude, to drop the snarky, snide, cynical, victim, blamey attitude, and just put on a new, not just put on a new face, but have that face be an expression of a new attitude inside. And I think that's vital. It takes a lot of practice.
Thanks, Tim. If you have time, if we have any more questions, Tim?
So I was talking with Ellie Shever, we've kind of got to the end of the step 12 thing. Are we doing the early chapters from next week, or is that going to be at some later date?
Shall I stop the recording?